Hi there. Gnosticism involves the cultivation of the contemplative life, and the contemplative life involves the cultivation of the conditions optimum to receiving Gnosis, conditions whereby you may receive Gnosis, because Gnosis is not to be commanded or directed or made to do anything. It does what it wants to do, regardless of you. So that's the definition of Gnosticism. I mean, think of it like you're a flower, and you're waiting for the bee to pollinate you. And the flower can have all manner of colours and tricks and attractiveness for the bee to be attracted to the flower in order to pollinate it. But you've got you're just a flower, and you have no way of getting the bee to come to you by trapping it in a net, for example. It's all done through attractiveness. But the bee may pass you over, or it may go to another flower instead of you. So you do all this cultivating of the optimum conditions for Gnosis to occur, and nothing may occur. Okay, and yet I suppose the cultivation of those optimum conditions is in itself meritorious. Well, not meritorious, but beneficial to you in this life. Now, the one thing to bear in mind is that there will be obstacles in your way to the cultivation of Gnosticism, and they're actually listed here in this presentation. But the biggest thing to bear in mind is that we are not all perfect. And the best that you can ever hope to achieve in this world, in the worlds of the demiurge, is a balance of forces, a balance between earth, fire, air, and water, and spirit, and to be anchored to that balance, which is a dynamic equilibrium whereby things keep shifting around, but basically you push water down one side and the water goes up the other by the same amount. So balance is all you can hope for. So if you take a negative word, it has some sort of positive contribution to make to the narrative, let us say. And like sacrifice is both painful and yet necessary, and self-sacrifice even more so. So basically, it's attaining a balance between the forces that govern the word sacrifice, and particularly the positive and the negative side of the word sacrifice needs to be balanced out in life. And that's basically all you're going to ever achieve in this world of duality. So you can take any of the words there that I've presented here to represent obstacles in the way of cultivating Gnosticism, and as a way of making yourself attractive to the bee of Gnosis, as it were. And there'll be positive and negative sides to each of these words, and the relationship between positivity and negativity is highly complex. And basically, you're going to have to make do with a balance between the positive and negative forces, or not even that, or fiery forces, or airy forces, or earthy forces, or watery forces, or spirit or etheric forces, and they're all going to have to come into balance. And also go out of balance, and you'll have to push them gently back into balance again, or perhaps not so gently, as the case may be, unfortunately. And that also is another characteristic of living in these finite worlds of the demiurge. So I've got here a big E, and I was going to talk about society because society actually could be talked about in terms of the 10 E's that I have here. And then I suddenly decided, judge not, lest he be judged, really, because I'm really talking about myself here. It's just that, I'm a microcosm, and perhaps there are other people around who have the same problems as I do, and all I can do is to share them with you, not knowing who you are exactly, in the vague hope that this might be of help to you. So we look at the 10 E's, and I have here, I've made up some fantastic words as well. And originally, I was going to talk about the fact that society is very much based on some of, if not all, of these E's. And it's really that when you think about all the big terrorist attacks like 9/11, they've all been done with a great big with a lot of insight into the way that modern Westerners actually think and behave. And 9/11 was designed really to upset Westerners to the very core of their cultural and psychological being, which is the whole point of terrorism. I mean, with terrorism, you have to find out what terrorizes people the most and then do that to them. And through intimidation and coercion, you hope to achieve your political ends by making people either overreact to your terrorism on one hand or capitulate on the other, or both. And so that's what the new war is about, the new kind of warfare. But I didn't want to speak here about terrorism or 9/11 or anything like that. Just to talk about myself, mea culpa maxima. And we've come here like this is a great one. Estimationalism, estimationalist. What a word. By that I mean that basically you estimate your worth by comparing yourself to others. By estimating the worth of other people, you estimate your own worth. Either you're more worthy than other people or you're less worthy than other people. And so avarice comes into this, whereby you want what other people have got as you perceive it. And you continuously estimate your worth by how you perceive people perceive you, and how you perceive the world, and want what other people have got. And only until you've got what other people have got, as you've estimated them, according to some kind of peer formula, that you are happy. But then you're not happy again, because then you re-estimate yourself on the basis of new criteria, new data. And so therefore you're always estimating your worth all the time. And that is a real big obstacle to the contemplative life, because how can you be contemplative if you're continuously estimating yourself, even estimating your worth as a contemplative by comparing yourselves to other contemplatives? Think about that one. So then the next one we come on to, and I can't see, evading. Yes, I was going to say evading a list, but that sounds really stupid. Of course, you're going to evade everything that you can't face, everything that you want to change about yourself, but you're going to put it off until tomorrow, hasta mañana. And you're constantly evading the big questions of life, and evading who you are, and evading what you must do in order to sort of further the contemplative life, or even to maintain it. And you're evading your own authenticity when life strips us of everything that we are, either through pain or sadness or grief, or somebody pointing out a big home truth about ourselves. Then the chickens come home to roost, and all the years of evading the questions about who you are and what you're doing come crashing down about your ears. And that process can end in tears. I suppose it's a process of growth, however, and this is an example where the balance between the positive and the negative aspects of evading are really at the nub of the question here. What's the next one? Oh yes, ecstaticist. Ecstaticist. This is somebody who's constantly wanting to have ecstasy, constantly wanting to get out of their heads, and constantly wanting to have transcendental moments of great ecstasy, and even taking ecstasy, even taking drugs that will get you into an ecstatic state. Very much, we live in a culture of EDM, which is electronic dance music, and a culture of ease, ecstasy. always wanting to get out of your head, always wanting to be other than you are, through creating brain chemical changes of an erratic and chaotic kind, which is what ecstasy and other drugs do. And you're just, picking up the clock and smashing it up to see how it works. But that means you just have a smashed up clock, and nothing works about it, you see, which is what you're doing to your brain every time you go in, you have drugs. But the whole culture, electronic dance music, the whole techno scene, the whole like the whole sort of roboticness of the EDM beat, which they're always trying to desperately get out of, but always failing to do so. You just want to be high all the time, really. You can't stand being low. You've got to be high, 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 and you've got to have an orgasm. You've got to have sexual fulfillment. You've got to have self-actualization. You've got to have happiness all the time. It's sort of infantile, really. Anyway, we're coming down to egocentrism, and a subcategory of this would be narcissism, of course. This is really what everything is revolving around you. It's you, me kind of attitude and culture. I just again, but then on the other hand, the ego is also something to be celebrated as well. Self-deification. But the person who's narcissistic hates themselves, really. So that's not self-deification. That's the opposite, of believing yourself to be God. You're really thinking yourself to be a dog, and hoping that will somehow elevate you to the to the realm of godhood. Well, no, maybe there is no such thing as God. So the self cannot be deified. You're just a slob like everybody else, really. So the egocentricity of man and of me and of you is well documented and well analysed. Coming down here, oh, this is a good one. Yes. Estimationalist. We've already had that. Yes, we've had that one. Okay, we've had that one. Externalist. I think externalist is where you derive happiness from external things. Basically, it's retail therapy. You feel blue, you want to buy something, make you feel happy on a temporary basis. You go out hunting, you go out shopping. Shopping is really like hunting, and you go and you down your quarry. You get what you want, and then you want something else after you played with that toy for a little bit. We all know about that. Essentialist. Yeah. Easementalist. Easementalist. That's where you want to live a life of ease. You don't want to work for anything, least of all for your living. You just want to be on the DOS all the time, and who doesn't? Your work isn't fulfilling. Some people are very fulfilled by their work, but most of us are not. And we just want a life of ease. We want to kick off the work shoes when we get home and not do anything. But then we complain when we're not doing anything due to coronavirus lockdown, and we're all bored and fed up and listless, etc. So, we don't want a life of ease, and we don't want to struggle about anything. We don't want to work at all, to do any work, especially spiritual work. We just want spiritual work to be easy. Then we come on to entitlementist. This is where, I've got my rights. I'm entitled. I'm entitled to everything. I'm entitled to a job. I'm entitled to, I'm entitled to welfare. I'm entitled to this. I've got my rights, the right to roam and a right to be free and all this kind of stuff. Our whole Western culture is very much based on what we're entitled to as we perceive it, and we're entitled to a lot, apparently. Or are we? And that becomes sort of linked to narcissism, really, I think, almost in this culture. And then we come on to empatheticist. This is false empathy, though. This is when we care about the old people who are dying of coronavirus, and we don't actually. We care about the little doggies in China or Indonesia or whatever. We don't. We're sort of yuck orientated and always horrible and. But we're prepared to completely destroy the whole of our economy, being all empathetic about everything, and empathetic about world debt and isn't it horrible and isn't it terrible, and we go marching around with placards and stuff like that, and we don't realise the complexities of the problem, and the balanced approach that is required to solve the problems of the world, if indeed they can ever be solved, which is only on a temporary basis anyway. And then existentialist, well, that's really to do with materialism. Nothing more than material existence, and we just have a sort of sense of materialist existence as being as trumping everything, really. And we give up in despair about all this transcendental rubbish. Why can't I just go out and get pissed? That'll be better. Well, that goes back to the ecstatalist. And I think actually what I wanted to put down here was not estimationalist. Actually, it was essentialist. Essentialist is a very good term, interesting concept. It's where you have to have certain things. Like I have to have a cigarette in the morning, or I have to have a cup of tea at 11, or I have to go on Facebook or Second Life or whatever. I have to have my iPad at all times with me. I can't live without my mobile. It's this idea. It's things essential. Certain things are essential, which people didn't have in the past. But they had other things that they thought were essential as well. So we have this idea that with so many material things are essential for our well-being. We can't live without them. We can't exist without mobile devices. We can't exist without computers. Well, that's old hat now because it's all mobile devices now. Everything else is just like what, computers, desktops. Oh, you must be an old dinosaur. Nobody has desktop computers anymore. I mean, but a mobile device is essential to life, and you can't imagine living without the internet, for example. Which is why a terrorist only has to destroy the internet by some means or other. Nuke the servers of Google, and everyone would completely fall apart. Of course, some people would adapt faster than others, but most people would literally fall apart without the internet. So that's what I mean. It was essentialist. Should have been written there. Sorry, I made a mistake there. So I've just briefly gone over these 10 obstacles in the way of contemplation. But of course, essentialist, for example. A lot of contemplatives do live by quite a rigid routine, and a spiritual routine is a good thing. And any sort of routine is quite good. You've got to do your training, you've got to do your meditation every day, you've got to do it in the morning and midday, every day, and you've got to do prayers. The rule of the old monks in the monasteries of Britain in the Middle Ages was very strict, and everybody knew what they were doing at all times of the day and night. And you get up in the middle of the night and do your prayers, even though you didn't want to, and other people would sort of be there to gently shove you down the stairs into the chapel at midnight to do the midnight prayers, and then you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do more prayers, more meditation, and then you'd be out working in the fields for the rest of the day. Everything was very strictly routined, and that can be a very, very good thing, actually. So you see. You could say that was essentialism, having a routine. But on the other hand, that's a sort of positive aspect of having a routine. People that I've known that have no routine are just flaky, all over the place people that are just usually on drugs, or relying heavily on the workplace to give them a routine, to give them a sense of direction. And if they haven't got a routine because they can't go to work because of the coronavirus lockdown, then they're completely falling to pieces. Half of them are not even getting up the whole day. They're just staying in bed all day, completely getting more and more depressed as well. So, these are the obstacles to the contemplative life. And the answer all these obstacles are really pointing you to the direction of the still, calm center, because it all seems to me that what I've described in this presentation, they're all sort of agitations, really. They're all types of agitations of the mind. And comparing yourself to other people is an agitation of the mind, for example. And if only you could sort of still the mind and just let go of all these things, then you could attain the contemplative life, which is sort of opening yourself up to the possibility of Gnosis. And then when Gnosis comes into your life, gradually all these things that agitate the mind, when they won't go away, because they can't go away, because they're part of the demiurge's way of doing things on this realm, in this realm, but they'll slide off you a little bit easier, and you'll wear the world a bit lighter and a bit looser and a bit more informally, and yet you won't be distracted by all the pointless things that we do and all the mental funks that we get into all day, every day. And a balanced life really is all you're ever going to achieve, which is what I said earlier. And if you can achieve that, if nothing else, then the contemplative life will have been successful as far as you are concerned. And with Gnosis sort of as a cherry on top of the icing on the cake, really. So you've got your cake, which is duality, which is all the distractions I've mentioned. And then you've got your icing, which is the contemplative life. And then you've got the cherry on top, which is the Gnosis itself, which is the real deal, the authentic thing that arises, which transcends all duality, perhaps once and for all. And so there, this is the cherry. This is the ice. This is the cherry bun. And all I can say really is have fun with the bun, and which can be taken in a very strange way. Have fun with the bum, and try your best, really. Well, don't try your best, actually just succeed in the contemplative life. And you will get rewards that far outweigh any rewards that you might get from indulging in all these mind funks that I've mentioned here.